Let's paint a picture. The year is 2025, and the so-called special relationship between the United States and the United Kingdom, it's not just on the rocks, it's been completely shattered. What we're about to walk through is a speculative scenario, a what-if, that starts with a single, absolutely devastating statement coming out of the White House. And there it is. That's the moment everything changes. An official, public statement from the White House that calls the British Prime Minister a liability. Not an ally, a liability. It's a move that just torches decades of diplomatic protocol, and in this scenario, it's pretty much the official death certificate for this special relationship. So how does a cornerstone alliance like this just completely fall apart? Well, the source material makes it really clear this wasn't an accident or some misunderstanding. No, this was a full-blown, calculated diplomatic breakdown, a public humiliation of the British government staged for the whole world to see. The scene that's painted is incredibly stark. You've got President Trump's administration basically freezing out the entire British government. Leaders from all over the world are getting welcomed, but for the UK's Prime Minister, the door to the White House is slammed shut. And why? Well, according to the source, it's payback, pure and simple, for every perceived criticism made against Trump during his campaign. And believe it or not, the snub gets even more personal. While Prime Minister Keir Starmer is getting the cold shoulder, his main political rival, Nigel Farage, is reportedly welcomed with open arms at Mar-a-Lago. This isn't just a snub, it's a message. The White House is signaling that they don't even consider the Prime Minister to be the UK's legitimate leader anymore. So that diplomatic broadside was just the first shot. Now comes the economic bombardment. All that tough talk on the campaign trail that maybe some people dismissed, well, it's about to become a devastating reality for the entire British economy. 20%. Just remember that number. That's the universal tariff that President Trump imposes on all foreign goods. And let's be crystal clear, the United Kingdom is absolutely included. There are no exemptions, no special treatment for a so-called historic ally, just a flat, punishing 20% tax. And the impact is immediate and, frankly, staggering. Britain's own Office for Budget Responsibility projects the UK economy is going to shrink by £22 billion. And that's just in the next financial year. We're not talking about a mild recession here. Those are numbers that start to look a lot more like a depression. When you look at who gets hit, the damage is everywhere. The auto industry is staring down a potential 25% drop in U.S. sales. You've got pharmaceutical giants reportedly thinking about packing up and moving. And all those iconic British exports, we're talking everything from Scotch whiskey to Stilton cheese, are suddenly way too expensive for their biggest market. But this crisis, it goes even deeper than diplomacy and economics. Now it's bleeding into the most sensitive area of them all, strategic security. Because the bedrock of that whole world, which is trust, has been completely shattered. Now, to really get what's at stake, you need to understand the Five Eyes. This is one of the closest, most intimate intelligence-sharing alliances on the entire planet. It's a cornerstone of Western security, and it's built on decades of absolute, unquestioning trust. And in this scenario, that trust is just gone. The flashpoint here is a deal over the Chagos Islands. The UK government agrees to transfer sovereignty to Mauritius, a country that Washington sees as being closely aligned with Beijing. The American reaction is swift and severe. They claim that their critical military base at Diego Garcia is now compromised, and they're reportedly considering cutting off Britain's access to the highest levels of intelligence. Suddenly, the UK isn't a trusted partner anymore. It's being treated like a potential security risk. So you have to be asking, how did it all unravel this badly, this fast? The source suggests this wasn't some slow decay over time. No, this catastrophic breakdown was triggered by one single, explosive moment. So what was it? What was that one breaking point? According to this telling, it all came down to a single demand from the White House, a demand that was just flatly refused. And this is it, right here. This source alleges that President Trump laid down just one condition to even begin talking about the tariffs. The Prime Minister had to fire his Foreign Secretary, David Lammy, who had been a very vocal critic of Trump for years. The Prime Minister refused. And in that moment, he's accused of putting his personal loyalty and political pride above the national interest, essentially choosing to protect one colleague over the economic health of the entire country. So now, with that decision made, the Prime Minister is completely backed into a corner. He's suddenly isolated on the world stage, and he's facing an absolutely massive political and economic crisis at home. This leaves him with two stark and, let's be honest, pretty much impossible options. Option one is a humiliating U-turn. He could fire his foreign secretary and basically go begging to Washington for forgiveness. Option two is to stand his ground, remain defiant, and just watch the economy crumble around him, which would almost certainly trigger a challenge to his own leadership. And the consequences are already hitting. The pound is dropping. International allies are watching with really deep concern. And back in London, Westminster is in a state of absolute panic, with politicians on all sides demanding to know how they get out of this mess. And that's where our source material leaves us, with these really powerful, unresolved questions. Can the UK's economy actually survive 4 years of this kind of pressure? And has the Prime Minister, in trying to show strength, actually become the very thing the White House accused him of being, a liability to his nation's security? It's a chilling scenario, and it really forces you to ask, just how special is the relationship really?